Benedica friends, come in and join us, won't you? I am Don Michael Wilseone, the Podfather of Cinema Classics. You come to me on the day of my podcast and you ask me to analyze one of the most legendary films of all time. This I cannot do without calling in a couple of favors. Yeah, that's enough of that. Yeah. First of all, she is my frequent loyal consigliere on silver screen. Welcome back, Sandy.
Hi, good to be here for this one.
How are you doing? You happy with being assigned Tom Hagen as your character for the day?
Actually, yeah, he was I liked his character. I'm good with that.
I wouldn't feel comfortable assigning any of the female characters because, let's be honest, they're all ciphers who get F-ball to do. So couldn't really get into
I
that
will
one.
say, analyze this and analyze that have ruined the term consigliere for me.
Oh, no way, I've never seen those, but yeah, okay.
Oh
fair.
my goodness, you must.
I'll have to get around to it at some point. And we also have another guest. He was reluctant to dive into this one until I made him an offer he couldn't refuse. I begged. It's frequent guest Tobi. Welcome back.
I don't think that's the truth, Alan.
I know, but it sounded fun that way. How are you doing? You looking forward to talking about this one?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to this episode.
Fair enough. And in your own words, looking forward to antagonizing the public again with your opinions.
There was a hyperbole. I'm not going to say like it's a 0 out of 10 worst movie ever.
I know, but we have to lure the audience in. This is the intro. So if you just be like, "Oh yeah, I'm going to really annoy people," then people will keep listening.
Clickbaiting.
Genius. And where were we? There we go. And an unexpected addition. He wasn't going to be on this episode, but just when he thought he was out, I pulled him back in. Yes, I know that's the third movie, but give me a break. It's my regular co-host and underboss, DK.
You come to me on my day off.
I show you no respect. How you doing, man? You enjoying looking forward to this one, sorry?
I'm not too bad, actually. It's going to be interesting. I want to know what Tobi thinks of this because, damn.
Yeah, well, Tobi and I are both first-time viewers, spoiler alert, and you and Sandy, I know, have both seen the film before. Sandy gave it a rewatch. You're going off memory, which is fine because it's a big movie, so, you know. So, yeah, I'm interested to see all four opinions. It should be a very interesting podcast episode. I
need to dampen everyone's expectation right now about my eloquent thoughts about this movie.
It's okay. Don't ruin it. We have to hook people in, remember? Just pretend. So, no, I was talking briefly off air, and I'm going to leave a disclaimer for the audience now and say, if you remember listening to our Citizen Kane episode, I'm going to give a similar sort of little disclaimer to what I gave on that, which is, this film is huge and so influential, and there's been reams upon reams and essays and books written about it. So this is not going to by any means be a comprehensive and definitive guide about everything about The Godfather, because we'd be here for days, quite frankly. So, there are multiple.
6 hours.
I mean, it's a 3-hour movie. So, yeah, there are multiple places you can find, like I said, books and articles online, other videos and stuff. We will hopefully give you, like I said, a view of what all of us think and a first-timer's view from myself and Tobi. And I will be analysing key scenes, and I have went through and picked some kind of behind-the-scenes facts and things that I thought were the most interesting. But again, if we don't get to something that you are aware of, we only have so much time. I apologize. But if there is anything you desperately feel like we should have said, by all means, feel free to contact us on social media or leave it in the YouTube comments. So with that, we are here for Cinema Classics to discuss The Godfather. The Godfather, of course, is a 1972 American epic gangster film directed by Francis Ford Coppola, who co-wrote the screenplay with Mario Puzo based on Puzo's best-selling 1969 novel. It's the first installment in the Godfather trilogy, which chronicles the Corleone family under patriarch Vito Corleone, Marlon Brando, and the transformation of his youngest son, Michael Corleone, Pacino, from reluctant family outsider to ruthless mafia boss. The Godfather is regarded as one of the greatest and most influential films ever made, as well as a landmark of the gangster genre. And get your drinks ready early, people, because it was selected for preservation in the U.S. National Film Registry of the Library of Congress in 1990, being deemed culturally, historically, or aesthetically significant. I don't know why I feel the need to say that, because, like I said, every single cinema classic, bar one that we've reviewed, has had that distinction. But in this case, it is also ranked the second greatest film in American cinema, just behind Citizen Kane by the American Film Institute. Ghostbusters, as it turns out, was nowhere to be found, DK.
Oh, no. I've got no problem with this. Citizen Kane can get in the bin.
Fair enough. So yeah. Before we dive into the behind the scenes, I want to go around and do what I always do, because it's going to be a slightly boring one, I think, this time around. But I always like to go and ask your first experience with the movie, if you can remember what it was and what your initial thoughts of it were. As I've already said, my initial experience was 4 days ago, so I don't really have much that I can say except stay tuned for my opinions. And Toby, I'm guessing you're in a similar boat. You had never seen it before, so
I've seen it on first day when the world was still fine.
Wow, so it makes it sound like you watched it and everything, the scales fell off your eyes and the world was viewed for what it finally was.
I mean, kinda.
Damn, I'm sorry I put you through that. Jeez. But I'm intrigued to see your opinions.
It's not the movie's fault, but kinda, yeah.
Oh, okay, fair enough. I'll let you off. Yeah, bless you for coming and joining us anyway. So yeah, it falls to you guys. And Sandy, I do recall you saying you didn't particularly have a very exciting story for this. So can you remember anything about the first time you saw it?
I can't. I mean, I know I saw it with a friend who I frequently mentioned this kind of change in my 20s of looking and viewing at movies a different way and in a more artful or more thoughtful or intentional way. This was during that time, and I do know I didn't quite yet have it. And so I remember not really enjoying this film that much the first time I saw it. And then definitely last night I had a different experience. And of course, we've all seen pop culture references, and I think that's the reason I originally saw it, was because I wanted to understand all of those things, and not necessarily because I was looking forward to the film, for any reason. So again, I don't really remember much about it, except that I walked away thinking, glad that's done. Got that done. Check that off the list.
Fair enough. Yeah, I think I might have been similar if I'd seen this at a younger age. I don't know if I might have found it a little bit boring or a little bit different, than I view it now, with my years of experience and film criticism under my belt. So so perhaps Toby being a little bit younger, not immediately taking to it, isn't that unforgivable? Different generations and all that. So, but no, I was actually having a brief conversation with a friend of mine about The Godfather, and they asked, well, what do you know about this film if you've never seen it? And I was like, well, I've seen all the kind of, memes, I guess, or like cultural references and things. So I'm familiar with, horse's head in a bed and cotton wool balls in your cheeks to sound like Brando. And, oh, look how he massacred my boy. I've seen that, memed a few times places and stuff. So, but it is kind of nice to see them in context now and see where they all come from. And I do remember when I said I was reviewing it, Sandy, you brought up, of course, the obvious Family Guy joke reference as well. So, waiting to see if Toby doesn't like the film because it insists upon itself, Los.
I don't even know what that means.
Yeah, nobody does. It was apparently Seth MacFarlane's old film teacher said it about a completely different film. I think The Sound of Music or something. It was like, everybody says it's great, but it's not because it insists upon itself. It's like, what does that even mean? It's just nonsense. Anyway, I like the money pitch. That is my answer to that. So yeah, it's nice to see what everybody's talking about with all this. So I guess it falls to you, DK, to give us a semi-entertaining story about your first experience, if you can.
Oh, well, you're shit out of luck.
Oh, damn.
No, I saw it when I was about, in my 30s. It's, I came to it quite late, so I'd already seen a lot of the memes and all that kind of gubbins before it started. So, yeah.
Yeah, okay. Well, I am intrigued because I haven't said anything about this yet, but when I was telling you I was watching it for the podcast and stuff, and I hadn't got around to it, but I was just about to, you said, oh, you'll like it. And I'm kind of curious, what made you so certain about that fact?
Because it's you. It's if something's described as a classic, I very rarely heard you diss it.
Okay, fair enough. I think there are some things that
you are a film reviewer's wet dream. Let's be fair.
Well, I still didn't like Buckaroo Banzai, so whatever.
Well, exactly. You're not one of us, mate.
Oh man, I feel really bad now. Like I'm just a cheap date for all these movies, just immediately going to fall in love with them all. Now, I'm sure there is probably some that are regarded really highly that I'm just not oh, not clicking with and not aware of. But it's yet to happen, so we'll wait and see. Although, is it? We never know. I haven't given you my opinion about The Godfather yet, so we'll see. But so anyway, with that kind of preamble done with, we'll move over to our usual behind-the-scenes section, which I collated, passed over to a friend to read so that it's not just me talking the entire time. So without further ado, DK, are you happy to read out the BTS? What I actually have written down? Like I said, it's not gonna be super comprehensive, but I tried to pick as much that I thought was really interesting to include. So go ahead when you're ready.
Yeah, sure. Paramount Pictures obtained the rights to the novel for $80,000 before it gained popularity. Paramount's Robert Evans relates that when they met in early 1968, he offered Puzo the deal after the author confided that he urgently needed $10,000 to pay off gambling debts. Paramount wanted The Godfather to appeal to a wide audience and threatened Coppola with a violence coach to make the film more exciting. Coppola did add a few more violent scenes to keep the studio happy. The scene in which Connie smashes crockery after finding out Carlo has been cheating was added for this reason.
It's the last thing you would necessarily think of, wouldn't it?
Yeah. Gangster film. All right. Where's the added violence? It's the crockery. Oh, shit.
Exactly,
yeah. According to Puzo, the character of Johnny Fontaine was not based on Frank Sinatra. However, it is widely assumed that he was, and Sinatra was furious. He angrily confronted Puzo at a restaurant in the Upper East Side. See, I want to know what happened there.
Well, apparently there was an exchanging of words, and Puzo says that nothing actually happened, but he was shocked because it was, Italian on Italian American violence, and it's that kind of thing's just not done, amongst our people. So, like, all right, okay.
Oranges, or even the color orange, foreshadow death. God, don't I wish. Clemenza asks for more wine and is given a picture of wine with oranges floating in it by Paulie, the driver he later has killed. Tessio reaches across a table for an orange, foreshadowing not only his death, but that he will cross the Corleones. There are oranges on the table between Tom Hagen and Jack Waltz. Vito Corleone is buying oranges when he is shot. Carlo is wearing an orange jumpsuit when Sonny beats him up, foreshadowing both of their deaths. During the sit-down with the other Dons, an orange is placed in front of each Don that Michael later has killed. Vito has an orange peel in his mouth when he suffers his fatal heart attack. The Godfather was the highest grossing film of 1972 and was, for a time, the highest grossing film ever made, earning between $250 and $291 million at the box office. The film was acclaimed by critics and audiences who praised its performances, particularly those of Brando and Pacino. The direction, screenplay, story, cinematography, editing, score, and portrayal of the mafia. The Godfather launched the successful careers of Coppola, Pacino, and other relative newcomers in the cast and crew. At the 45th Academy Awards, the film won Best Picture, Best Actor, Brando, and Best Adapted Screenplay for Puzo and Coppola. In addition, the 7 other Oscar nominations included Pacino, Caan, and Duvall, all for Best Supporting Actor, and Coppola for Best Director. And gangsters reportedly responded enthusiastically to the film. Salvatore Sammy the Bull Gravano, the former underboss in the Gambino crime family, said, "I left the movie stunned." I mean, it floated out of the theatre. Maybe it was fiction, but for me, then, that was our life. It was incredible. I remember talking to a multitude of guys, made guys, who felt the same way. According to Anthony Fiato, after seeing the film, Patriarch crime family members Paulie Intiso and Nicky Giso altered their speech patterns to imitate that of Vito Corleone. Intiso was known to swear frequently and use poor grammar, so he didn't base this after some kind of Joe Pesci performance. Okay, but after seeing the movie, he began to improve his speech and philosophize more. In 2025, the Times reported that recruits to the Sicilian mafia in Italy are now required by mafia bosses to watch The Godfather so they can learn the trade, and because mafia bosses fear that new recruits lack a code of honor. So there you go, Mike. You can now officially join the Sicilian mafia.
Nice. Well, I'm not going to cross them, I'll tell you that. Certainly not going to annoy anybody, so yeah, respect. If any mafia are happening to listen to this. So not anything there surprising or anything interesting to you guys, Sandy or Toby, that you were unaware of?
No, I gave a good read through of the IMDb stuff, and like I had mentioned before, didn't finish it. It was there's
It's
so much information available about all
yeah.
of this. But one thing I didn't see mentioned that I found out around 2 a.m. this morning after watching the movie and going down my
Okay.
rabbit hole.
Yeah.
Did you know that in part the beginning of the Sicilian mafia was brought about because of oranges?
No, I didn't. Okay, what's that story about?
The rise of capitalism in Sicily, and largely sulfur, but also once they recognized that citrus fruits helped cure or stave off scurvy, especially limes and oranges.
Okay.
People needed protection for their crops. And so the protection racket, the mafia started as, a protection racket, and
Yeah, of course.
just went on from there. I just thought that was very interesting.
Cool. Yeah. Wow. That is interesting. I had no idea, but yeah, always good to get a bit of background. So I wonder if that is why the oranges kind of figure so prominently as a symbol of death in this movie, which
Not
actually I
that I
didn't pick up
saw
on. I just read
anywhere.
it.
Yeah, not that I saw
Yeah.
anywhere. I think this is a Sandy drawn conclusion.
Yeah. Well, there you go. Before I move into the other sections, I have got lots of other information, by the way, that to give you about writing and plot, direction, acting, the various things that we hit. But we'll do that as we go, and then, as I say, keep the conversation flowing if it moves a different way. But before we go any further, DK, are you ready to explain what the avatar is, or are you wanting to save that for later?
Oh no, I'll just wait. I'll let the fellow guests see if they can figure it out while I'm doing it.
Okay, well, I haven't got a clue because I can just barely make out what looks like a guy in shadow. So, so no. Okay, well, I'll move on next to the writing and the plot of this then. So. Excuse me. At the meeting in the restaurant, Soliozzo speaks to Michael in Sicilian so rapidly that subtitles could not be used. I did notice that, and I thought my Blu-ray was broken, but it wasn't. He begins with, "I am sorry what happened to your father was business. I have much respect for your father, but your father, his thinking is old-fashioned. You must understand why I had to do that. Now let's work through where we go from here." When Michael returns from the bathroom, he continues in Sicilian with, "Everything all right? I respect myself, understand, and cannot allow another man to hold me back. What happened was unavoidable. I had the unspoken support of the other family dons. If your father were in better health without his eldest son running things, no disrespect intended, we wouldn't have this nonsense. We will stop fighting until your father is well and can resume bargaining. No vengeance will be taken. We will have peace, but your family should interfere no longer." So if you were curious what was said, there we go. Now you know. Yeah. Previous mafia films had looked at the gangs from the perspective of an outraged outsider. In contrast, The Godfather presents the gangster's perspective of the mafia as a response to corrupt society. Although the Corleone family is presented as immensely rich and powerful, no scenes depict prostitution, gambling, loan sharking, or other forms of racketeering. The setting of a criminal counterculture does allow for unapologetic gender stereotyping, such as when Vito tells a weepy Johnny Fontaine to, quote, act like a man. So, yeah, not great. So, yeah, before I dive into the kind of various things that I noticed, and it's more kind of like specific scenes and things that I noted as part of them, is there anything about the writing and the plot that stands out to you guys in particular? Diki, I'm going to ask you, sorry, first of all. Sorry to put you on the spot.
It's a... what can you say? I mean, Puzo's script is fantastic, don't get me wrong, and the novel is also fantastic. I just like the fact that he went to him to get it done simply because he got gambling debts.
That's very mafia-ish, isn't it?
Yeah, it's not just that. It's just that you try that these days.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It was certainly a departure, as you say, from gangster movies at the time. And I think that's why it's so kind of revered, but it isn't just that. I mean, the characters are complex. There's some good dialogue, some memorable dialogue in here, thanks to the performances that illustrate Puzo's script. I think it works.
Yeah.
I think if you had a lesser script with these same characters, it wouldn't. So yeah, I like I said, I just think it works immensely, and yeah, fair play to Puzo for all that.
Yeah, that's a fair point to start us off with. Well, in the course of my research, I found a lot of people state that the film, despite outward appearances, isn't actually about crime. It's about, family. Not wanting to sound all Vin Diesel about this thing, but would you say that's a kind of a fair assumption? It's more of a family epic, Sandy, than it is about the kind of organized crime side of things?
My view was colored because I had read that it was supposed to be a film about capitalism.
It is as well, yes,
yeah. And so I definitely watched it last night through that lens. But yeah, it definitely is. I felt more about sticking to a code, but then also having to evolve with the times. It certainly did have elements of family and in a broader sense of the term, not just blood. But I was also struck with how, you're led to believe it's about the Godfather Vito, and soon you find this film is actually about Michael and him being a godfather. And I just really thought that was an interesting way, the through line of Michael's rise to be the godfather, how it was really about him. Hard to pinpoint any one thing exactly, and I guess we shouldn't, as to what this film is about.
There's a myriad of themes and kind of stuff that's touched upon. It was just that, like I said, I found one of the more interesting ones was the kind of family aspect, because it kind of feeds into a film that I reviewed not long ago, Fiddler on the Roof, which is a kind of, it sounds weird, but it also, I think in a similar way, speaks to the pressure of maintaining family legacy and traditions and things, and what that can put onto people and how the outside world can affect that in terms of, obviously in this one, it's more the capitalism, the kind of the encroaching kind of our drugs taking over the mafia side of things that's there in the background. And yeah, as you said, it's kind of outside factors shaping things, and are people taking up the family business and doing their legacy justice kind of thing. Did you get that, or am I kind of stretching a little bit with that one?
I did get that. And then alternatively, I even had thoughts of through some of these scenes, particularly in the wedding scene, was thinking about Moonstruck and how we had talked about how that was the rare Italian movie with absent of any mafia dealings or ties or anything like that. So, there was certainly the wedding scene was all about family, juxtaposed with him doing business in the back room and using it as a way to make all these connections while the FBI or whomever was out there writing down license plates and everything.
I have to say, I do love that opening scene. I will say that now, because obviously I've just recently watched it, so it's fresh in my mind. I just think it really it sets you into this world so perfectly. I think Brando's performance is great, but that's getting into acting a bit.
But
I just love that it started there. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I was actually annoyed with that scene in the beginning until I caught on to the cadence of the film and was able to appreciate its purpose after it happened, which is funny because I was like, man, this wedding is dragging on, when we get to the interesting stuff. And
I didn't feel that way, but I was warned that the start of the movie can feel like it drags and it's a lot of characters thrown at you and it's a bit slow. But I didn't really, I didn't sense that when I watched it. But maybe that was just me, or it's my advanced age and I'm used to that kind of thing now. But interestingly enough, the film wasn't supposed to start with that scene in the back room with them doing all the mafia dealings. It was supposed to start with the actual wedding itself. And I forget who mentioned changing it, but somebody mentioned to Coppola that they should start with the actual Godfather and that side of things and then lead into the wedding. And I thought that was kind of weirdly fascinating. On a similar note, they actually rearranged the order of, I forget the name of the guy, but the guy who's really nervous and goes last to meet Vito to ask for his favor. They filmed him meeting with Vito first, and then filmed this kind of nervous preparing the speech and whatever outside after he'd already filmed that. So again, it was a weird sort of out of order situation, but yeah, it's kind of the making of a film, the way that these kind of key scenes are chopped and changed is a fascinating thing, because I think it's in the right perfect form right now, So
Yeah, and it was a great way to introduce all these characters without feeling exposition-y or having to add some in later. We've even got some foreshadowing happening with that kid who's looking at the silk wedding purse, talking about how much money's going in there. And it was and ended up being actually a very great way to set up the whole rest of the movie, which again, I just didn't appreciate right away.
Yeah, and I have to say, I did take notice that it is intriguing that the people that ask for favors, you do see them all being kind of called in on the Don, kind of asking them to repay their favors throughout the film. Because as you said, you've got Johnny Fontaine, who's expected to perform in Vegas for the family in exchange for him getting the role. You've got the Undertaker, who wants the justice for his abused daughter. He actually has to prepare Sonny when he's been riddled with bullets, so that's the favor that he gets called in for. I forget the other one, but I do know they're all basically, they're all paid back. The baker, right? Remind me, what was that again?
His daughter's boyfriend was going to be deported, and he was able to use his political connections to help him stay. And then he was later called on to help put up a front that there was more people at the hospital than there actually were.
That's right. I remember reading about that scene as well, and also that the scene outside when he's really nervous was actually also filmed first, even though it came after he'd sort of been inside the hospital, because he was actually visibly nervous because he'd never been on camera before. So they basically used that. So again, and it's effective. I mean, you really feel the nerves from that guy when he's like struggling to light the cigarette and look all tough. And Michael's like, look like you've got a gun, put your hand in your pocket, kind of thing. So, yeah, that really worked for me. So,
and that was something I was really struck by, too, is how much editing played a role in the final cut of this film, and how scenes were put after scenes. There was even one, goodness gracious, I wish I could remember what happened right before, but it was a killing, one of the killings. And then the very next scene is Marlon Brando sitting in his chair, and he just kind of, cocks his eyebrow. And that scene just was so perfect after that death. But it wasn't meant to be that way. Just the way, just like with these other scenes that you've talked about, how they used it to their advantage. And I almost think that was besides getting this specific cast together, that was the second greatest feat of this film, was putting this chaos into in this intentional output. It was just really amazing.
Yeah, the way it juxtaposes the kind of, as you said, the domestic with really horrific things, like as you said, clicking from the horse's head in the bed to just a domestic scene is the next scene, I think. And obviously I have to shout out the most perfect example, which I did already know about because again it's kind of famous, the intercutting of Michael basically becoming the kid's godfather at the christening, and the kid being christened with the murder of all of the other Dons, as you kind of juxtapose that. And it's a series of montages kind of thing. I thought that was in context just brilliant, the way that it plays off that. It's really powerful. I think it worked really well, that scene. So yeah, and again I think it's been parodied and perhaps shown a few times, so I didn't know it. Right, well, Tobi, I'm going to come to you next. So we've already said the kind of the film's central character is Michael. It's not really about Vito. It's about Michael's transformation from where he starts to where it ends. Is that something you picked up on, and did you kind of make note of his arc throughout the movie, and what did you think of it?
I mean, of course, I took note of it that he transitioned into being the main character. I mean, because he wasn't in the beginning. So it's kind of a transition into this world. I think take the first 30-40 minutes, I'm just guessing, but the first part, I think it's very much about Vito still.
Yeah.
And I think we kind of transition into that then as the movie goes on. And I think the movie kind of plays with it a little bit, giving other people some moments to shine where you think, oh, maybe we get more of them, or maybe it's going into this direction, but it always comes back to no, staying with Michael. That's the main thing.
Yeah. Do you think that the film kind of, in that regard, kind of follows his journey? Because the whole point of it is that it's his basically going from, as we see at the start, reluctant, like it's my family, it's not me, to being the Godfather. So do you think the film deliberately kind of makes him more and more the main character as circumstances basically, point him towards the big chair?
I think at least that's the appeal of what this movie is going for. The outsider getting in. I think that's the main appeal of the arc. And what was the second question?
No, I was curious if you thought it was an intentional thing, because like you said, it really does seem for the first 40 minutes or so, whatever it is, argument's sake, that it's Vito's movie, but it becomes more and more about Michael as he is more and more getting closer to having to take over being the Godfather, even though it's something he said he never wanted. He didn't want to do it. He didn't want to be in the family business, but circumstances and various things basically conspire to make that happen. And as that happens, he becomes more and more central in the film. He becomes the main character more, basically. So yeah, did you pick up on that? Or yeah.
Yeah, it's very intentional, because there are definitely moments in the movie where you do kind of feel that the movie is pushing Michael into moments or scenes, like not in an unrealistic way, but definitely in a way where you go, this could have also been a different character. You could have done this with a different character if you wanted to, but you deliberately did that. For example, in with the hospital stuff, I think that's one of those things where they could have gotten anyone else shown at the hospital in that moment and all. But
would anyone else have reacted like Michael did in that moment, though? I think is the point, because they all have their own characters, and like Sonny would always fly off the handle and cause more damage than you can try and solve, and the others are kind of seen as a little bit less effective and whatever. So I think it's very specifically about the way Michael reacts to situations, and how, like I said, I kind of felt the tragedy of it being that he starts off telling, like I said, Keir, like, it's my family, it's not me. I don't want to do the family business. And even I think Sonny at one point says, oh, he wouldn't be targeted by the Dons. They know he's a civilian, even though he literally is a war vet. So because meaning he's not in the mafia.
Of course, but what I mean is that the movie puts Michael into that position out of interest in what Michael would do in that moment, not in the other way around, which could have been that you have a story goal you want to achieve, and you look which character could have best positioned into this to reach that goal. That could have been a different way to do this. But I think this movie is very deliberately going down the path of, no, we want to push Michael into these situations to see where this is then going, this story.
Yeah, well, that's the story being told. Are you saying that you didn't think it was particularly well handled? It was a bit forced, maybe?
Maybe a bit, but not too much. Like, not to a point where I feel like it's bothersome, but I do feel like you could see a little the hands off. Okay, this is the lane we're going to want to do. But I don't think that's necessarily a negative. It's just, I do think it's a little noticeable.
Okay, so yeah, go ahead, Sandy.
I did wonder too, specifically in that hospital scene is where I first had the thought, is how much did his military experience help him strategize in that moment, or even be aware. I mean, it was very obvious when everybody was gone, which the hospital was literally a ghost town. But he seemed to have even picked up on something being off before he even entered the different rooms. It's why he went looking. The record skipping in the background, but very quietly. I did wonder though if that's his experience gave him that ability to strategically plan, which made him the most obvious successor besides the family or blood part.
Yeah, and I think it kind of feeds into my next question that I was going to say. I think it also has to be Michael that's there, because it is central to his downfall, the chain of events, because he's the one that basically is guarding against the police that are on the opposition payroll. So he then gets beaten up by the police commissioner, which then leads him to want revenge, which causes him to do the crucial murders that basically flip the switch for him, so to speak, where he's actually killed them and has to go and live in Sicily for a while and stuff like that. So I think without that, you wouldn't necessarily, it wouldn't be the same if he hadn't been the one beaten up. And it lead me, because one of the things that came up when I was looking for kind of ways to analyze this was, are there any questions that's left after the movie? And I only had two, and one of them was, well, I want to know what happens next. And the other one was, I'm really curious, and I don't think the film answers it, if it was actually personal, because the film makes a huge point about it's all business versus personal and the lines being blurred. And I wasn't sure if it was a matter of Michael, oh, it's just about disrespecting the family or being, trying to kill my dad or whatever else, or if he really was like genuinely just annoyed that he'd got his jaw broken off this police commissioner and wanted to get him back. So what are your opinions on that, DK? Do you have a kind of feeling either way towards that?
I don't have a feeling either way, but it more so than really any other movie I've watched in recent memory. It is the protagonist is very much pushed in a certain direction, and he's a victim of his own circumstances, as it were. So there is a chain there, a chain of events. I can't say exactly what it was that which path he took, but it was inevitable.
Yeah. So
I was thinking that exact same thing.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think that's part of the tragedy as well, is that it was, if you want to look at it as destiny or fate or whatever, it was kind of always going to happen. And yeah, the events that happen, you curse them as they're happening, because I mean, like you said, Sonny being in charge, that would have been fine. It would have been all good. But then Sonny gets killed, and you're like, oh shit. Well, that's now we're going to need somebody else in charge.
It wouldn't have been good, though. It would have been good for the five families, but it wouldn't have been good for the Corleones, because they, as soon as they saw him question his father or have a different opinion from his father, they're like, oh, this is a guy we could deal with. Not only that, but he's so hot-headed, he's going to end up imploding the Corleones from the inside. And so it wasn't, but good for them. And
that's true.
It's just so cool that there's just so many moments when Michael could have stopped there.
Yeah.
He could have stopped there, and he could have stopped there. But like you said, the events, the car bombing, just each thing just kept and until he was fully in.
Yeah, fair enough. What was the other thing I wanted to mention? You kind of touched on it, so I'll mention it now, because it's my one kind of biggest criticism of this, is that I really just don't think the film is particularly kind to women. I have to say, it's uncomfortably misogynist to the point that women have barely any character, and when they do, it's really like uncomfortable for me, because you've got the Apollonia character who literally falls in love and marries without saying a single word. She's just literally like decoration, and that was really awkward for me. And then she gets killed to motivate Michael to kind of go back and be out on this vengeance quest, and immediately forgotten. He goes straight back to his other ex without mentioning that he's been married and lost this wife and whatever. So I kind of hated all of that stuff. And then the fact that he didn't mention it to Kay, and that he then started kind of gradually disrespecting her more and more, and at the end of the movie literally is shutting her out and lying to her. I was like, well, the women that you do give character to are also regarded as, people to be abused, or like what's it, Connie's character similarly, she just gets abused throughout the movie, and then at the end of the film it's like, oh, she's hysterical, whatever, just shove her out of my office or whatever. And it's like, she's part of your family as well, so I just I didn't love the kind of anti-feminist streak, I guess, in the movie. So is that something that you guys picked up on, or is that just me being a bit overly woke, I guess?
I do think it's in there, because like you can definitely see part of it as like this is part of the setting and the time, and not like the time of the shooting, but like the time. I mean, I guess it's contemporary.
That it's set, No, it's set just after the Second World War, so I suppose it's like 45, 46-ish.
Yes.
So
yes, right. Sorry, mix up.
Yeah, I know what you mean, though. Yeah. So, like, of the times, it would be different.
But I definitely mean it's part of it is definitely time. But I do think we have a lot of examples of movies depicting women at the time in a way that doesn't make them just feel like they're just going to take it and it's fine. And they're like, because this just shows like I believe that this is the way it was, but you could show like how the women are reacting, what they think of that. Maybe subtle ways they push back a little bit or something,
Yeah. No, I have a kind of a not so much pushback, but a bit to add to that. But Sandy, sorry, you were saying something there as well.
I was just saying that they certainly were sidelined in the movie, and I was trying to rationalize that, why that was. And like Toby was saying, there were things they could have done, because it almost seems like they were setting them up to be beneficiaries of this lifestyle without being involved in this lifestyle, but certainly having a purpose. But you never like you didn't see the wife in there cooking for everybody. You saw one of the guys in there cooking for everybody. You didn't see her place or her purpose in the household. And I thought they could have even said, well, the women were above that, or they were being protected from that, but there was no symbolism showing them as a mother, as a Mary figure, for example. It was lacking all of that symbolism. And so the only conclusion I can draw is that their role wasn't important to the story. It just wasn't. That there obviously had to be women there because that's how the real world is, but that it's just not in his 3-hour runtime, just not something he wanted to explore. And he had his own family members in the movie, so it's not even like there was any disrespect meant. So that's how I rationalized it, that it just we didn't have time to think or consider them.
I don't put it necessarily all on Coppola as the director. I think it's as much with him and Puzo as the writing, but I would counter that with, like, the characters are all so well drawn and all given such rich lives, except the women. And like I said, the primary example of that I would give is Apollonia, who just, like, she's treated like a bargaining chip basically from the start, when it's like, well, translate for me, I want to meet your daughter, let me, meet her and hook up, and this way you won't have lost a daughter, you'd have gained a son or whatever. Basically, I'm going to marry her, whatever kind of thing. And like I said, her entire role is just to motivate Michael. She has nothing that she does on her own at all. Like, slightly annoys him and then gets blown up, and it's just like, that is so offensive to me. It's like she could be a well-rounded character with her own storyline or whatever, but nah, it's not important. And it's the same with Kay. Like, she's so kind of supposedly critical to the film. She's there at the start and the end, and her role's important, but she gets so badly treated throughout. She gets lied to, she gets screwed over. It ends with her basically being, like I said, shoved out of events and things, and it's like, and we learn nothing about her. It's all just how she relates to Michael. And I'm just like, and like I said, even Connie's character, even as part of the Corleone family, it's just like, oh, she's there to be married off and wedded off and kept out of the family business because there's no place for women or whatever. And again, she gets nothing to do other than be hysterical at one point and then again at the end. And it's just like, you could have given these characters a bit more, especially considering, I mean, I read somewhere that the initial cut of the film, I think, was like just over 2 hours. But executives or somebody were like, no, extend it a bit, make it a bit more, give us a bit more richness of the characters and a bit more. And yet, with an extra hour, they were still like, but we don't want to write any more for the women. It's just like, come on, you could have done, really, couldn't you?
And what's funny is those favors in the beginning, 2 of them, the big ones, involved them wanting to do something for their daughters.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, it's something you could have, but we never even barely see Vito and Connie. You see him like kind of give her away at the wedding briefly, and that's it. It's never touched on how she feels. And like you said, you never see the mother of the family. It's always just, oh, she's upstairs sleeping. I'm going to have to go tell her about Sonny's death now. Like, how did she react to it? It might have been interesting to see that, But yeah, I mean, as a woman, were you picking up on this, Sandy, or is it just me being oversensitive?
No, yeah, I definitely did pick up on it, but I forgave it in that it wasn't their story. It wasn't even a story of the whole of that blood family. It was the story of the family, the mafia family. So I forgave it.
Okay. I mean, I don't say, that, it ruins everything. It makes everything completely irrelevant. But I think it's an oversight, and there's no reason why they couldn't have done a little bit more, frankly, or handled things a bit better. And I think a modern film probably would. But I am told that Godfather Part 2 does something with the female characters one way or the other, but I haven't seen it yet. So I'll wait and see how that goes.
Also, I do feel like there are a lot of male characters that barely have more screen time than the women are better characterized in this movie. I just want to give that as well. So it's not just we didn't have time to do something with them. No, you have a lot of male characters that get barely any time, and I feel like I got a better grasp of them.
That's true.
Than the female characters. So I feel
exactly,
they could. I feel like it was just I think the most likely explanation is just that it was an afterthought. Like, they just didn't really put a lot of thought into this, and we're like, we just need them because the story needs to have some, and so we just.
Yeah, I mean, I understand, as you said, it's a product of the time, but I still think as a movie, there's no reason why you can't show us a bit more of their lives, even if it's not necessarily, fully connected, because how much of this is vital? I mean, you could cut, for my opinion, you could cut the entire scene basically of Michael in Sicily out of the movie and not lose that much, because he never mentions his wife that got blown up anyway. So,
How the women are treated in the movie is a product of the time. The characterization is not.
Yeah, exactly. So before I move on from the writing, then I kind of wanted to go, because I was kind of looking at a good way to analyze this, and there was a couple of things I wanted to kind of do because it said this is one way to do it, basically. The first one being to name 3 moments in the movie that stuck with you. Well, I think I'm going to go around and ask each of you individually for one, because there's enough of us here to do that. So DK, what was one moment that stuck with you out of the film?
The sit down where he goes and gets a gun.
Oh, with Michael, you mean?
Yes.
Yeah, kind of his first murder when he kills the commissioner and the guy. Yeah.
Yeah, I always
Go ahead.
The image of the guy who's like gets shot straight through the forehead and he's like halfway through eating, it sticks with you. I think that's a good.
I was going to bring that up in direction, and I will when we get to it, because I had the same thought, and that scene I think is pivotal. It's a really important scene. So yeah. Put a pin in that, because I fully agree with you. It is a very surprising and a very important scene. Sandy, what about you? One scene that surprised you in the film? No, sorry, one moment that stuck with you in the film?
That would have been my first pick also. And then my runner-up scene would have been the hospital scene, and him looking around and coming to that realization that something is wrong, and just the quietness of that scene. I know it was late at night, but you didn't see any other patients, no other medical personnel, and just how they set up that scene and the intensity there. The whole scene, all the way up until standing out on the front and the mobsters deciding not to do the follow-up hit that night. That was
even
really
the tension of it's a little moment, but the tension of the one cop being like, I'm not going to beat this guy up, he's a war hero. It's kind of like, no, you'll do as you're told, buddy, kind of thing. Sort of, there's so much tense moments in that scene, and I completely agree. It's a good one. So yeah, I can see that sticking with you for sure. Sorry to interrupt you there. Was there anything else you were going to say?
No, just also the cinematography there, and the coloring in that scene, and the sound in that scene, really just the entire thing. But I just found it very affecting.
Cool. And Tobi, one scene that stuck with you, if you can think of any.
Yeah, I think what I found the most interesting as a scene was, well, it's 2 scenes back to back. It's towards the end, like I don't know, like 2:30s in or something, where Michael and Vito are talking when Vito's already retired. It's like in like a garden or park or whatever this was. And then afterwards, the scene where he then plays with his grandchild, obviously dies, but not the dying part. Just the image of that, the way he talks to Michael, and then later seeing how he plays with his grandchild, and just what it tells you about him and about other stuff we hear him say towards the earlier part of the movie about family, but we don't really get to see in action that much, mainly because Vito is kind of sidelined very early on. Not sidelined in a bad way, we forget about this character, more like sidelined in the plot needed him to be sidelined, literally just the plot. No, I see what you're saying, because we do get the sense he's a fairly honorable guy despite the crime and everything. He won't, deal with drugs and stuff, and he clearly does love his family. But you're right, the one scene that we kind of see that in action is the scene where he dies, which I think is kind of a tragedy within itself. I did read somewhere as well that that scene was improvised, because they just basically sat Marlon Brando down with the young actor and said, just do what you would with your own kind of family or whatever. And it's Brando that came up with the idea of like sticking the orange peels in his mouth to whatever with the kid, and just being silly and chasing him around and stuff. So
was like, okay, that's cool. But yeah, good scene. I will say I have two others that you haven't mentioned that are in my list. My list did include Michael's murder that DK brought up, but it also included Sonny being shot. Stuck with me. Again, I think it's a really powerful moment, just seeing him completely get riddled. And obviously the ending being pretty bleak. I wasn't necessarily expecting it to end in such a downer kind of way. So yeah, the
May I
next
add
question
one
then
more?
is, yeah, go for it.
The other scene that I really loved was when the gentleman, the muscle, when he was going to kind of try to pretend to be like a mole for the in the other side, when he goes into the restaurant and he's walking into the restaurant and that empty hallway with his footsteps all the way down the hallway and then walking into the restaurant, and then he crosses in front of a glass with a fish etching in it, which makes it look like he's under the sea, i.e. sleeping with the fishes. But again,
Yeah.
that was another tense scene where you just don't know who's going to betray who, or if they are in fact falling for it and about to, that plan is about to come to fruition, and then they stab his hand and strangle him, even though he's gone through the trouble of putting on a bulletproof vest thinking he'll protect himself. But it's just how they're always one step ahead of each other, and where you can't trust anybody, and you never know who's going to come at you from what direction and with what weapon. So I just thought that was a very good scene as well.
Yeah, it is impactful the way that he's kind of strangled or garroted to death, that guy. I have to say as well that I did read in the course of my research that scene is what inspired George Lucas to have Princess Leia kill Jabba the Hutt in that way in Return of the Jedi, which I was like, okay, I can see that. So yeah, now you won't be able to watch that scene in The Godfather without thinking of Jabba the Hutt. You're welcome. So yeah, the last, the second last question for now. What is there one? Is there one thing in the movie, and if so, what that surprised you? I'm going to go the reverse order. Toby, was there anything that surprised you? When you were watching?
Wait a minute. Let me think. I think what surprised me was the heavy turn towards the end.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the tone goes a lot darker all of a sudden, doesn't it?
And I'm still not sure about how I feel about this, but it's definitely surprising.
Okay, fair enough. What about you, Sandy? Is there anything that surprises you?
I think what surprised me is, even though it was slow and that it had these slice of life moments cut within it, that once I did get past the wedding scene, I was fully pulled in and I was ready to watch. Like you mentioned, I wanted to know what happened next. I was fully ready to put on Godfather 2 right after, even though it was so late in the night. So I think, especially contrasting it with my first watching of it, where I was just relieved to get it checked off the list, and this time watching it, I just found it so very engrossing.
Yeah, absolutely. And DK, what about you? Anything that surprised you in the film?
I towards the ending, as Sandy mentioned, yes, it's kind of like a slow burn, but when you see that final shot of the door being closed on Kay, and he turns out to be the very thing he swore he would never do, it's it sticks with you.
Yeah, I completely agree. That's one thing I noticed, like I said, amongst the scenes that I thought were impactful. I think that ending is just oof. But yeah, I mean, the one thing that I said was surprising for me was to see Vito getting shot protecting Fredo when he's buying the oranges, because I'd never seen or heard anything about that, and I genuinely thought that was him killed, and he was gone from the movie at that point, and was like, wow, okay, that came from nowhere. I mean, obviously he does recover eventually and dies of a heart attack, but spoiler alert. But yeah. So the last thing before we move on to directing and such, are there any questions that you have at the end of the movie? Ideally, without spoiling the second and third, if you have seen them, and I'll just open that up to anybody. Does anybody have any questions?
I don't.
No, Sandy?
No, again, like you said, just I was ready for the story to continue, and I wanted to know, does he actually succeed, and how conflicted I felt wanting him to succeed, how I was always on their side and disappointed when they suffered a loss.
Yeah, for sure. And Toby, what about you? Any questions that the film leaves you with?
No, I don't have anything I need answering.
Fair enough. In that case, I'm going to move on to the directing then. Filming took place primarily in locations around New York City and Sicily, and it was completed ahead of schedule. You might be surprised to hear. Paramount wanted the picture to be directed by an Italian American to make the film, quote, ethnic to the core. Production assistant Peter Bart suggested Francis Ford Coppola as a director of Italian ancestry who would work for a low sum and budget after the performance of his latest film, The Rain People. Coppola initially turned down the job because he found Puzo's novel sleazy and sensationalist, describing it as pretty cheap stuff. At the time, Coppola's studio American Zoetrope owed over $400,000 to Warner Brothers for budget overruns with the film THX 1138. And when coupled with his poor financial standing, along with advice from friends and family, Coppola reversed his initial decision and took the job. He later found a deeper theme for the material and decided that the film should not be about organized crime, but a family chronicle and a metaphor for capitalism in America, as we kind of said earlier. Paramount execs wanted the movie to be set in contemporary Kansas City, and shot in the studio backlot to cut down on costs. Coppola objected and wanted to set the movie in the same time period as the novel, the 40s and 50s. Coppola's reasons included Michael Corleone's spell in the wartime Marine Corps, the emergence of corporate America, and America in the years after World War II. The novel was becoming increasingly successful, and so Coppola's wishes were eventually granted. I will make a side note here. I have to say that I think it was also very clever of Puzo, whoever it was that made Michael a war vet, not just because of the kind of hero to villain-esque trajectory, but because it meant that I wasn't questioning how he was able to kind of coldly handle a gun when it came to murdering those guys. I was like, oh, well, of course he knows this stuff. He's been in the army. So it meant I could suspend disbelief a bit easier there.
And how they noted when that baker's hands were trembling as he was trying to light a cigarette after they, quote unquote, got away with it, and how he looked at his own hands and noted that he was not shaking. So
yeah, exactly. Yeah, completely. Coppola stated that he felt he could be fired at any point because he knew Paramount executives were not happy with many of the decisions he'd made. Coppola was also convinced that the film's editor, Aram Avakian, and assistant director, Steve Kessner, were conspiring to get him fired. Avakian complained that he could not edit the scenes correctly because Coppola was not shooting enough footage. Paramount were satisfied with the footage, however, that was sent to the West Coast, which included the scene of Michael's double murder in the Bronx restaurant, and they authorized Coppola to fire them both. Coppola later explained, like The Godfather, I fired people as a preemptory strike. The people who were angling the most to have me fired, I had fired. And Brando had already threatened to quit if Coppola was fired anyway. So, yeah. Cinematographer Gordon Willis initially turned down the opportunity to film The Godfather because the production seemed chaotic to him. After Willis later accepted the offer, he and Coppola agreed to not use any modern filming devices, helicopters, or zoom lenses. Willis and Coppola chose to use a tableau format of filming to make it seem like a painting. He made use of shadows and low light levels throughout the film to show psychological developments. Willis and Coppola agreed to interplay light and dark scenes throughout the film. Willis underexposed the film to create a yellow tone. The scenes in Sicily were shot to display the countryside and display a more romantic land, giving these scenes a softer and more romantic feel than the New York scenes. And it was George Lucas who put together the mattress sequence, or the montage of crime scene photos and headlines about the war between the five families. He did this as a favor to Francis Ford Coppola for helping him fund American Graffiti, and that's not to be credited. Lucas used photos from real crime scenes in that sequence. So, yeah, that's my information about the directing. Anything there, again, stand out that you wanted to comment on at all, anyone?
I think Coppola is to an extent, I don't hate him, but I think his kind of name is associated with a lot of quality. I think he has a tendency to be a little overrated in some ways. But when you look at Godfather, it is one of those products that he's put out that you generally look at it and go, yeah, okay, I get it. It's extremely well directed. I mean, the toll booth scene alone, I love that.
The Sonny murder, you mean?
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, heck of a movie to build your reputation on, really. And there's some just beautiful scenes. I mean, you mentioned that you're going to bring up the sit down and the killing in this section.
Yeah. Yeah, well, that was one of the key things that I said, and I think the direction is, for me, what kind of makes that scene, because it's things that I noticed without it being like, oh, this is jarring. So I really noticed the kind of, as Michael's basically pondering doing it, you get the sort of loud train noise in the background, and everything else kind of fades out, almost emphasizing his kind of heightened state of mind and that he's laser focused and trying to think. And again, as you said, the sheer awkwardness of it, it's not a nice, clean killing. It's brutal and horrible and realistic that he misses basically the police commissioner at first and shoots him in the throat, and then has to shoot him again in the forehead. And that's not a nice, clean kind of shoot in the forehead, disappear. It's like he spends a good few seconds staring at him like, what the F have you done? Whilst he's been shot in the head. And that is horrible, as you said, and it really is visceral and sticks with you as like, yeah, man, this is killing people. This is not a nice, pleasant, they're just going to bang and go away. So I appreciated what they did with that scene and sort of showed you the impact of it, because I think it is Michael's crucial turning point as well, of like, you've now officially killed people for the family. There's no getting around this. You're on that path. Would you guys say the same?
How he forgets to drop the gun until the last moment as he's walking out. Yeah,
I didn't notice that, but I wasn't sure if that was intentional or not. I wasn't, because I was like, well, it is a small restaurant. So, but yeah, if you notice the same thing, then obviously it was an intentional thing. So yeah, okay. What about you? Did you find that scene impactful, Toby?
Not in so much ways that you described.
Okay, fair enough.
I mean, I'm not saying it's a bad scene. It's a good scene, but like, not in the gushing way.
Oh, I love it. I gush about it all day. I love, like I said, the screeching train in the background is an interesting choice. The kind of nervousness about it all, the fact that he can't find the gun at first and he's kind of fiddling around, so that you have time as an audience member to think like, oh crap, what if it's not there, or he can't find it or something. And then, as I said, the sheer fact that it's not glamorized.
I was kind of more worried that they would hear the fiddling around. I think that was a nice point.
Fair enough.
Because I think there is a moment. No, I think when he's different way. When he's coming out, you hear the flash.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, did they hear the rest or not? That was I think that was the one.
I see.
Because you did see them how they kept looking back towards the bathroom expectantly, like what's taking him so long in there.
Okay, I wasn't sensing that part, but okay, fair enough. That's cool. That's an interesting angle of it for sure.
I'm going to talk about that exact same moment. In fact, reflected in my avatar there. You also do pick up on the fact that he doesn't fully speak Sicilian like everybody else, especially when he's like having his bodyguards translate when he's talking to Apollonia's father.
I did read that was supposed to be in Sicilian, but Pacino wasn't comfortable, so he asked them just not to do it. So Michael's supposed to be fluent, but Pacino isn't. Sorry, just to type that in for you.
And so in this scene here too, he went there, this look on his face in my avatar, all he's thinking about is what he's come there to do. He's not even really fully listening to everything they're saying because it doesn't matter.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think that's another reason why it's good that there's not subtitles, because otherwise we'd be trying to read those subtitles instead of looking at his face right here and how determined he is, how set he is, how he's almost getting himself ready. Who knows if he's recalling some feat he had to perform in World War II, and just kind of getting in that mindset and getting ready to do that.
Yeah, I'd say I read it slightly differently to you, but not by far. I read it as basically that moment that we all go through when we're about to do something like huge and we've got to conquer our nerves. And it's like, am I going to do this or am I not going to do this? There's no going back if I do it, but it's a big step. And it's like that inner conflict, I said, to me, it was kind of picked up perfectly. And the fact that everything else was zoomed out and it was just in his head to the point that he could even hear the just screeching train as the one thing, like, oh, this is a key moment sort of thing. But yeah, I just love that scene. No offense, Toby. Other than that, the only other thing I have a few things. I love the Jersey scenes. I think they just look sumptuous. The fact that you've got the tall grass and the Statue of Liberty in the background. Obviously, one of those is the Toll Boothie type scene, but primarily the scene with the cannoli, shall I say, that you see at one point in the film. I think that scene is just shot beautifully. It looks so good. I love the stylized deaths in the end montage. the fact that, like I said, the film purposefully doesn't glamorize the death or whatever of the police commissioner. And not that it glamorizes these deaths, but they all look a little bit stylish, especially the one shot through the guy's spectacle lens. I was like, oh, wow, that is an epic shot, you know. It looked really good. I like the vista photography, the atmospheric indoor environments, the stuff that I've already mentioned, the use of light and dark and the way that that's employed. And yeah, that's my notes on the directing. So do you guys have anything that you wanted to shout out specifically?
You've named the other ones that
oh, sorry.
Don't worry about it.
And just the fact that he worked with such a large ensemble cast and how he was able to even sort of tame Brando, not in any purposeful sense, but in that it was important to Brando that this vision come off as he knew our director was going for. And how even though some of these guys were just starting out, what big personalities we know retrospectively that they actually were, and that he knew when to dial back his directing and let them do something. And he knew what to include, he knew what to use, like he took advantage of these things. I think that is why he gets to claim this as such a great film, and this kind of lightning in a bottle thing that it was impossible to capture in his other things, to DK's point, where certainly when it comes to gangster films, and I've mentioned this before, I much prefer Scorsese in that sense, but this film in particular is I feel like he deserves that credit.
Okay, cool. Well, you've kind of led us to the next point, so I may as well get straight into it then, which is the acting. Paramount president Stanley Jaffa, I think that's how you pronounce it, required Brando to perform a screen test. Coppola did not want to offend Brando and stated that he needed to test equipment in order to set up the screen test at Brando's California residence. For makeup, Brando stuck cotton balls in his cheeks, which I was surprised to learn because I thought that was like a Mickey take that everyone does, but that is what Brando did. He put shoe polish in his hair to darken it and rolled his collar. The executives were impressed with Brando's efforts and allowed Coppola to cast him in the role if Brando accepted a lower salary and put up a bond to ensure he wouldn't cause any delays in production because he had a bit of a reputation at this point. Brando earned $1.6 million from a net participation deal. Not bad if you can get it, I guess. Al Martino, a then famed singer in nightclubs, was notified of the character Johnny Fontaine by a friend who read the novel and felt Martino represented the character. Martino contacted producer Albert S. Ruddy, who gave him the part, but Martino was stripped of the part after Coppola became director, and then he awarded the role to singer Vic Damone. According to Martino, after being stripped of the role, he went to Russell Bufalino, his godfather and a crime boss, who then arranged for news articles to be published that claimed Coppola was unaware of Ruddy giving Martino the part. Damone eventually dropped the role because he didn't want to provoke the mob, in addition to the salary apparently being too low. Ultimately, although Frank Sinatra threatened to bar him from Las Vegas if he took the role, the part of Johnny Fontaine was given to Martino. So maybe some actual Godfather-type wranglings there. And as you kind of mentioned earlier, Sandy, Coppola gave several roles in the film to his family members. He gave his sister, Talia Shire, the role of Connie Corleone. His daughter, Sophia, then an infant, appeared as Michael Francis Rizzi, Connie and Carlo's newborn son. Carmine Coppola, his father, appears in the film as an extra playing a piano during the montage scene. And Coppola's wife, mother, and two sons all appear in the film as extras. So, yeah, anything there surprising or shocking at all, apart from the nepotism?
No, the nepotism's not shocking. Simply because I've seen Godfather 3 and
I knew you were going to say that. Yeah, you're not a fan of Sophia as an actress. I'm aware of this.
No, she'll not be winning any awards in my book.
Fair enough.
Yeah,
anything else? Well, I think she did actually win the Golden Raspberry Award. But anyway, yeah, that's a different film. But yeah, anything about the acting you want to speak? I'm not gonna try and take over for you and say all the things that you wanted to say. So let's see, Sandy, I'm gonna come to you. Anything about the acting that stands out or that you wanted to bring up?
Just that it was really good, and all of these depictions of gangsters, and how we learn through your behind the scenes that some mafia people even saw this as the epitome of mafia lifestyle and made it an orientation film, and even tried to emulate Marlon Brando and his portrayal of this. Just is probably the biggest and best testament to how good the acting was. Not that it was an accurate portrayal, because, well, as far as we know, Brando wasn't in the mafia, but that it was a perfect portrayal, portrayal that pulled you in. The reason why we did root for them, having that code of ethics that he stuck to, or the separating personal from business type dealings. And then, of course, Pacino's turn throughout the movie from a boy, even though he was a man, but he was kind of boyish in the beginning, how he treated the wedding, how he was talking about everything very frivolously, not a big deal, but because it's not me. And this, how he ended up looking in the end, even how he carried himself, was really, really good acting.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I couldn't agree more.
Oh,
what about you,
60
Tobi?
days, mind you. In 60 days, mind you. From the what was this filming, right? It was like over the course of 2 months, and he was able to make that transition of that character, within 2 months.
Yeah, absolutely. And it is a transition, and it is a transformative performance. And yeah, I'll say no more, because I'll give my thoughts at the end. But Tobi, what about you? Anything from the acting that stands out to you?
The one thing
Be negative if you'd prefer to be negative, by the way.
I haven't noticed anything particularly negative in the acting. I'm trying to think, but like no one did an aggressively bad job.
Did anybody stand out positively? Was there anything that you thought was a really good?
I was going to be positive right now.
Okay.
I think the one person that steals, I think everyone showed this movie, is Marlon Brando. I think the performance is incredible and so fun.
Yeah.
So different, so fun. I enjoyed that a lot.
Yeah, I think the same thing. And I'm not a fan of Brando as a person, but I think his performances are often fantastic. He is really just next level good at the Don Vito role here. Even though I did read that he basically refused to learn his lines, and they were just placed on cue cards around the set for him to read, because he says that the spontaneous reaction of seeing it for the first time gives you a supposedly better performance, not just that he's a lazy bastard. So,
and even a picture of the cue card taped to Robert Duvall's abdomen.
I was just going to bring that up. There's a famous picture, of Duvall standing there with the cue card with Brando's lines on it.
I mean, if you give that good of a performance, take all the cue cards you need. I'm going to take the
I mean, all right, but it is still a bit lazy when everyone else is bothering to learn their lines.
It is lazy, but I don't know.
I did also read that they had family dinners together in character, that they weren't allowed to be out of character, and so that kind of helped them be comfortable with each other on set.
I also have to shout out James Caan and Robert Duvall, who were both surprising for me, because you don't really hear a lot about them, and I think they were both incredible in their roles. Caan as Sonny, the kind of like loose cannon, rough riding one that you kind of knew was always going to be destined for a violent end, and then it came. And especially, like I said, Duvall as Tom Hagen, that you just follow throughout the movie, and it's fascinating to me, that character. And I mean, even the minor actors, as you said, are doing a really good job. Even I mean, as much as I criticize the way the women are written, the likes of Diane Keaton and Talia Shire are incredible with what they are given.
Yeah.
So credit where it's due for that one. Yeah. Okay, then. I literally have nothing about the VFX production design, because I basically talked about it in the directing. Did you guys have anything else that you wanted to bring up about that?
I have nothing.
No. We'll skip straight ahead then to the music and the sound. The score was composed principally by Nino Rota, with additional pieces by Carmine Coppola, because nepotism. I have literally just one note that just says, this is so good. It's key to the mood. It's very culturally appropriate. I kind of get the sense of the Italian heritage and the mafia sense to it. And I just think it's brilliant. I noticed how good it was, which like I said, it's very rare that I do that with a score, where I'm like, oh, this score is incredible. I would listen to this just on its own. And it just set the mood and the tone of everything so well. DK, you're a music guy. Do you know anything better than me about this music?
This is one of the movies where I know very little about the score, but as you say, it is a beautiful score.
Yeah, love it. What about you, Sandy? Any thoughts on the music?
I did also really thought that the score was great. Obviously, it's great in setting the tone, but just also, I mentioned footsteps and hallways. You mentioned the train sound outside. I did think that the sound design in general was very good.
Yes, 100%. Yeah, I should have said that. Absolutely. And Toby, any thoughts from you on the music or the sound overall?
I don't have anything to add.
Fair enough. In that case, I will go around and I'm going to ask us our favorite character, moment, and line, and then we can get into critics' thoughts and then round us off with our conclusions and scores. So yeah, first of all, favorite character, favorite moment or scene, and favorite line in the movie, and reasons why. DK, I'm going to come to you first. Why not?
Favorite character, it's got to be Michael. Not only does Pacino give a great performance, but just the fact that he's a complex character, and as I say, he's more a victim of circumstance. He's set out in the movie with an outlook on life, and he was pushed pretty much kind of entirely against it into the position he finds himself in the end. And it's not. He wears it as a heavy burden, but I don't think he fully detests the role, as it were. He kind of grows into it. They always say heavy is the head that wears the crown, and you very much get that kind of vibe from Michael. So yeah, that's a character. Moment, not to bleat about it, but the whole gun in the toilet situation. Favorite line, it's me. It's got to be, leave the gun, take the cannoli.
It's mine as well, but I'll tell you the reasons why when I get to it, because I picked the same exact line. Why I didn't get into it in any depth just yet because I knew it was coming up. But yeah, okay. In your case, I'm guessing it's just because food.
I love cannolis. I can fully appreciate the sentiment going on in that scene.
I've never had them, but now I'm really intrigued. Absolutely. Okay, Sandy, what about you then, and your favorite character moment line, please?
My favorite character also is Michael, and again, that restaurant scene was just so very pivotal, excuse me. But in the interest of picking something new, I did have something else set aside, and it was kind of just at the end, just prior to the baptism, when Tessio was the one that approached him about the meeting, so he knew Tessio was actually betraying him, and they're getting into the car, and when Tessio is realizing, when Michael's not going to come with him, and then he sees Michael's bodyguards come around, like, oh, I've been found out, and he accepts it, and he accepts that he's about to be killed. And when Tessio says, tell Mike it was only business, I always liked him. And then this is the line when Tom responds, he understands that. And that's when you knew, even before you see them kind of kissing the ring at the end of the movie, that's when you knew he was the new Don, because of the way Tom is speaking for him. And I just, that line kind of gave me chills. He understands that. This gave me chills. And so I'll place that as my favorite.
Awesome. Fair enough. Did you have a line? Did you give one?
That's the line.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah, my favorite moment is still going to be the restaurant scene.
Okay, fair enough. That's awesome. Toby, over to you then.
Let's be really quick. Favorite character, Vito, just because of the performance, the acting performance. Favorite moment, I'm just going to repeat the one I talked about earlier towards the end. The two scenes, actually. It's one long moment. For me, it's one long moment. They fit together. Okay. And favorite line, I'm so unprepared for this again.
It's got the most famous quotable lines in the world. It's been memed a million times.
I mean, I was just thinking of picking one of those, but I was like, that's a little bit of a cop-out.
Nah.
Oh, wait. Oh, I can't quote it exactly, but there's like one moment where a case like politicians don't murder people or something.
Now who's being naive?
Yes.
Yes.
It
good choice.
Really fun.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a good pick. Well remembered. I completely didn't recall that. That's a really good yeah. Okay, my favorite character was actually Tom Hagen, just because it was such a surprise to me, and I like that he's adopted, but he's still accepted as a member of the family. I think it speaks a lot to, you know, their honor code. And he seems like an honorable-ish man, and he's kind of the one that's got the cool head in all of these situations and just trying to do his best. I don't love that he kind of seems a bit more on board with the drugs thing, which is why I was contemplating switching to Vito Corleone. But I'm like, to be fair, Vito does much worse in this film than that. So yeah, I'll still stick with Tom. My favorite scenes, the two that I actually have written down, are either the restaurant scene that you both already picked with Michael, or the montage of murders at the end, where you actually see, like I said, on Pacino's face, this kind of transition to this darker crime boss Don character. If you want a third one, because they've already been picked, I'll go with everything from basically Sonny hearing about what happened to Connie, to him like angrily heading off and then ending up getting riddled with multiple machine gun bullets. And yeah, my favorite line, like you, DK, was leave the gun, take the cannoli, because it's funny and it works on its own level, but it's also a really clever way of juxtaposing the domestic and the kind of business kind of crime side of things, as it were. And I did read that despite, you know, seeming like it's a perfect mash of that and it would be brilliant if it was written, it was actually, according to Coppola, improvised by the actor Richard Castellano, who played Clemenza. So yeah, wasn't actually part of the script, but it's my favorite line. So yeah, with our thoughts then, you know, randomly locked for now until we give our final conclusions, I'm going to do what we always do, which is that on Cinema Classics, I always give critics feedback. I don't ask the audience their response because it would seem redundant if it's a Cinema Classic usually. So yeah, I've done a critics feedback section, but again, I've talked enough and I want to give my voice a rest. So Sandy, it's over to you, if you don't mind, to read what the critics thought of The Godfather.
All right. On review aggregator Rotten Tomatoes, the film holds an approval rating of 97% based on 153 reviews, with an average rating of 9.4 out of 10. The website's critics' consensus reads, one of Hollywood's greatest critical and commercial successes. The Godfather gets everything right. Not only did the movie transcend expectations, but it established new benchmarks for American cinema. Metacritic, which uses a weighted average, has assigned the film a score of 100 out of 100 based on 16 critic reviews, indicating universal acclaim. Pauline Kael of The New Yorker wrote that if ever there was a great example of how the best popular movies come out of a merger of commerce and art, The Godfather is it. Coppola has stayed very close to the book's greased lightning sensationalism, and yet has made a movie with the spaciousness and strength that popular novels such as Dickens used to have. She concluded that The Godfather is popular melodrama, but it expresses a new tragic realism. Roger Ebert of the Chicago Sun-Times wrote that Coppola has found a style and a visual look for all this material, so The Godfather becomes something of a rarity. A really good movie squeezed from a bestseller. Coppola and his cinematographer Gordon Willis also do some interesting things with the color photography. The earlier scenes have a reddish-brown tint, slightly overexposed and feeling like nothing so much as a 1946 newspaper rotograver supplement. Ebert named The Godfather the best film of 1972. Writing for the New York Times, Vincent Canby felt that Coppola had created one of the most brutal and moving chronicles of American life, and went on to say that it transcends its immediate milieu and genre. Director Stanley Kubrick even thought that the film had the best cast ever and could be the best movie ever made. Steven Spielberg listed it among his favorite films. Stanley Kaufman of The New Republic wrote negatively of the film in a contemporary review, claiming that Pacino rattles around in a part too demanding for him, while also criticizing Brando's makeup and wrote a score. Remarking on the 40th anniversary of the film's release, film critic John Podhoretz praised The Godfather as arguably the great American work of popular art and the summa of all great movie making before it. 2 years before, Roger Ebert had written in his journal that it comes closest to being a film everyone agrees is unquestionably great. Ebert added to his canon of great movies. Don Corleone's line, "I'm gonna make him an offer he can't refuse," was voted the second most memorable line in cinema history in AFI's 100 Years, 100 Movie Quotes.
Yeah, I don't know what number one is, by the way, but I'm going to have to look that up now, so apologies. So there. Thank you for that, Sandy. That's, yeah, really interesting. It seems like pretty much universally beloved, with that one slight negative criticism to throw in there. So, yeah, just remains for us then to give our conclusions and our scores. But before we do, is there anything else that you guys wanted to add, or any thoughts or any feelings that you wanted to say? Because I'm aware we've kind of, I've talked a lot and we've talked over each other a little bit. And Tobi, we haven't really heard from you anything super critical. So did you have anything you wanted to add before we get into conclusion?
First, I want to add the number one choice of quotes. I did a Google now because I also wanted to know. And it's from Gone with the Wind. And it's the quote, "Frankly, my dear, I don't give a damn."
Thank you for that. That makes sense. Okay.
And that's what I got from it. Tobi didn't hate it. He was indifferent to it.
Yeah,
Okay,
that's what I got.
Yeah.
No.
Again, I was just being jokey when I said when I talked to you in the Discord.
But again, that was
Fair
my first experience with the film as well.
Yeah, and I can, as I said, I can imagine if I was younger when I was watching it, it might have kind of bored me a little bit. It is long, to be honest.
But was it an age thing or was it a first time thing? Oh, but you watched it for the first time.
I watched it for the first time anyway.
That's true.
But you know, I'm
It's
a
definitely not the length
length
thing. So it's definitely not because it's too long. I've seen movies in equally long and enjoyed them.
That's fair enough. It's just interesting that me and Sandy were both kind of gripped into it and wanted to carry on, and you just seemed like you weren't. A bit of a slog maybe to get to the end of it.
Yeah, I think my main issue was that I just didn't really care that much. And I think I told you that as well earlier on Discord. I was like, it's good, but like, I just don't feel a personal connection or like.
Okay,
feel
that makes sense. You're not in the Italian mobs, as far as I know.
Yeah, but I also don't feel like I'm not getting excited or like wow or cool or anything. I'm just like, that's good, that's fine, that's.
Is it a film you could imagine growing on you over time, or you just absolutely not bothered about it one way or the other?
I don't know. I don't think this is my genre.
Okay, that's more than.
Did you pick up though on more things that you didn't even realize came from The Godfather as you watch it? Like, oh, that's why people always say that line, or that's where that came from. Was there anything new you saw assigned to that?
No, I did definitely know that all the iconic lines were from that movie. I think at most there were gonna be probably one or two lines where I was like, oh, this is from the first one and not from the second one. It's like, oh, that's okay. Or where I just kind of forgot about it in the moment, was like, oh yeah, right, that was from there. But it's not like nothing I didn't knew, just things I temporarily forgot about or did not think about as in anticipating of it happening.
What about like pop culture wise? Is there anything that you were like, oh, that's where that comes from, and I've seen this referenced or memed or whatever somewhere else?
I think outside of some lines, not really.
Okay, fair enough. Cool. Well, that's all right. Then in that case, as I said, we're going to give our conclusions and our scores out of 5 stars, as we always do. Sandy, are you okay if I start with you first?
I am okay. So I was really impressed with this film. I did not feel like it insisted upon itself. I think what that comes from is that Coppola was telling everybody he was hot shit, and I think that rubbed people the wrong way, and so they looked at this more critically. It was certainly ambitious, but I feel like he knew he was making one of the greatest films ever as he was making it. And maybe in that sense, you know, he took some liberties and did some things, but with that came a freedom, although he had to fight for it. Like we saw that there were many mafia things happening, or mafia type things happening behind the scenes as they were being shown on screen. But I think all in all, it really is a great film that has symbolism and depth and characters that grow and are alive on screen, and great performances delivered and cut and edited together in a very special way with wonderful music woven throughout. And for that reason, I would give this film 5 stars.
Wow, I was not expecting that. You normally always go like 4.91263. So thank you for that, Sandy. That's awesome. Tobi, are you happy to go next with your conclusion and score?
Yeah, sure. Although I kind of did already.
Yeah, that's fine. If you just want to give it one line and then a score, that's okay. Yeah.
But I just to repeat, I think that's kind of the main problem, is that I just don't really felt excited in a personal way about, not in a personal way, but in a excitement way about it. And the reason why I said people are going to hate me for this is not because I gave it a low score, but because everyone gave it an absolute high score.
I see.
So I did give it a pretty good score, I think. It's just everyone is like 5 out of 5, best movie ever. I was like, oh, they're going to hate me giving it 3.5 out of 5.
Okay, I don't think anybody's going to hate that. No. There's people that would, I'm sure, think even worse of it, especially if I said on a first viewing or if they just don't connect with it.
And
no,
we're
that's. I
best
mean, I
when
can see why
balanced.
you feel well.
Yeah, I mean, look
We're
at
best when balanced out.
Look at that movie reviewer that said that Pacino was just rattling around.
Yeah, exactly.
I was offended
guy
by
did.
that actually when I read it.
What a jerk. But okay, cool. So DK, it's over to you then for your conclusion and score.
It's not my genre, and like Sandy, I much prefer Scorsese's version of Gangster Tales. But I can recognize greatness when it is there, and this is iconic for a reason. It's got fantastic performances. The script is multi-layered and it pulls you in, despite not wanting to. I mean, when I first watched this, I really didn't think I was going to be interested in it, but it hooks you. It has a way of just, taking you up and carrying you along with it. It's long, it's slow, but it's not dull, it's not boring. The characters are fantastic. Every person's portrayal is brilliant. The score is amazing. And it even, as I said earlier, it even makes me like Coppola. I honestly can't fault it. It's, as I say, I'm more of a cheese fest when it comes to movies, but I can recognize greatness when I see, and this is one of those times, and it's a 5 from me also.
Wow. Okay. Very high praise. Wow. Watching The Godfather for the first time certainly was an experience, as I was promised. Seeing iconic pop culture moments in context was eye-opening, but there's much more to this film than decapitated horses and 1,000 bad Marlon Brando impressions. The entire narrative is compelling. It absolutely hooked me in, and it kept me engaged in these lives and this story in a way that I probably haven't been since I first saw Citizen Kane. The direction is truly masterful, subtle when it's wise to be, but employing really cool visual language, tricks, and cinematic flourishes throughout. The acting is exemplary, especially from the main players. Brando's sheer charismatic presence, Pacino showing a man slowly losing his soul and making every inch believable, Khan's sense of barely contained, constant, dangerous rage, Duvall's restrained and contained thinker. I could go on, but I won't. And yet, not to spoil the party, worse than Michael hitting Vegas, but this for me isn't quite a flawless film. I can already sense the gasps and cries of blasphemy, like you, Toby. But I felt the script and direction had an uncomfortable misogynist streak, as I said earlier. I don't know whether it's conscious or not, and I'm not here to judge that, but women are given no agency. I realize it's a sign of the times the film was set, that Connie would be considered unsuitable for the family business. But within the film, she's a prop to be manipulated by men. We see her attacked, but don't get to see any cathartic resolution for this till over an hour later, when it's revealed that even that was just a ploy to lure her protective brother out. Don't get me started on Michael's first marriage to Apollonia, a woman treated like a possession to be acquired who falls in love and gets married without saying a word, barely speaks at all, and then gets killed and immediately forgotten. Michael then proceeds to mistreat and lie to his ex-girlfriend, and those are just the female characters that actually get to be more than set dressing. I also feel like the narrative is maybe a bit too sprawling for the film medium. It's easy to get a bit lost in the mafia power dynamics, double crosses, etc. And it's hardly a feel-good film, though I realize that's the point. And it is somehow still an enjoyable experience. Overall, I can see why the film has the reputation it does. I second the praise, but for me, it just falls a little short of the greatest film ever made status a lot of people have applied to it. I was very torn because I can absolutely see that, and I'm really on that, but there's just too much for me to give it a really fully perfect score. So I actually did something unprecedented for me and pulled a Sandy, and I gave it a 4.7 out of 5, which I'm reluctant to ever do, but I just had to. Like, it's better than a 4.5, but it's not a 5 for me because of the issues that I have with it. So that's where I fell on that. So yeah. So I'm with you then, Toby, on not giving it a perfect score, so you can breathe easier. So yeah. Putting those together then and dividing by the 4 of us here gives a final score for The Godfather of 4.55 out of 5. So yeah, I mean, still pretty good, pretty high, I would say. I don't think anybody's going to hopefully complain too badly about that. We did have 2 perfects amongst us, so you guys
it
happy
always
with that?
feels accurate in the end. Yes, it always feels very fair.
I mean, it would round up to a 4.6, which again, you're heading towards 5 territory anyway. So.
But then that's discounting Tobi altogether if we do that.
Yeah.
I'm getting edited out of the episode.
It's erasing him like the women were erased in the movie.
I didn't mean to do that. I just meant if you rounded up the score 4.55, it gets to 4.6 because of all of us. So, you know, Tobi's entitled to his opinion just as anyone else is. Like I said, he's going to find a horse's head in his bed tomorrow, but that's fine. So, I would never. And and so as Michael figuratively and literally shuts out his wife and his innocence, we come to the end of the episode. Hopefully you've enjoyed it. Thank you for sticking with us. If you have, it might have been a little bit longer than the usual 90 minutes we tend to give to cinema classics, but hopefully not by too much, it looks like. So thank you for, again, sticking with us, analysing this film. And I'm pleasantly surprised because it was a bit daunting for me to face this one and how to tackle it. And we've, I think, done a pretty good job. Hopefully, like I said, you feel the same way. If you do enjoy Silver Screen podcasts, do check out all of our links in the link tree in the episode description, and check out our merch store on TeePublic, or you can become a member for as little as $2.99 a month. Choose the films we review, get random perks, super chats, etc. It's all there if you wanted to join us and help. Yeah. And if nothing else, please do like, share, subscribe, and spread the word, because our views have fallen off a bit of a cliff, and we're trying to boost them back and get our audience, motivated and back in watching. So again, any help would be greatly appreciated. And obviously, I do have to thank all of my compatriots in this podcast mafioso. So first of all, thank you, DK, for again coming on board when you weren't planning to and being my loyal right hand.
Yeah, no problem, mate.
You enjoyed yourself?
Yeah, it's been good, and I apologise. I've not had that much to say, but
No, it's all right. You did, I think.
Yeah, I've enjoyed listening to the discussion.
Awesome, and I will see you again, I think, next week for our next recording. And I'll leave that there for now. So, and thank you again, Sandy, a frequent guest of the podcast. And again, you wanted to come on this one, so hopefully you've enjoyed it, yeah?
Yeah, I have enjoyed it. Thanks very much for having me, and I did very much appreciate all the views in this.
Awesome. And Tobi, again, thank you for coming and giving your opinion on this. As I said, sorry if we have given you a hard time. You're more than entitled to the opinion. And I'm kind of glad you didn't hate it. I mean, a 3.5 is still a liked in my book, so hopefully you've enjoyed talking about this anyway.
Yeah, and as the last word, I want to just briefly pick up one thing you said, and I just wanted to agree that I think that the complexity of the characters in the movie format is sometimes a little bit difficult to follow.
Yes, yeah.
I want to agree with
that.
that.
I can kind of see why they ended up making a version of Godfather 1 and 2, which they put together and then cut to make it into a mini series for TV, where it was like an hour or 90 minutes at a time kind of thing. So maybe it's easier to follow that way. I don't know, but it does exist in that form if you want to try it, I think. So yeah. And I know that Sandy and DK, you never normally have anywhere people can follow you online. It's just a matter of keeping an eye on on Silver Screen podcast and such.
That's correct.
Yeah, pretty much. Although, has anybody guessed what the avatar is from yet?
I haven't a clue.
No, it looks to me like opera singer, but I can't get any beyond that.
Is it the Kingpin from Spider-Man?
No, it's actually Dom DeLuise playing Don Cannelloni in the Cannonball Run 2.
Oh, well, I would never have known Cannonball.
How can you not know Cannonball Run 2? It's the only movie ever where Frank Sinatra stars alongside Jackie Chan.
Well, I'm sorry, but you have to resurrect cult classics just to do that. It's very on brand for you. Thank you for sharing that with us.
No
and Tobi, I'm assuming you are probably going to direct people to your Blue Sky account as usual.
As always, if you want to see me talk about anime, because I can't do that.
So that's
with the people that don't watch anime.
Social.
So, and if you want to check out 91 Days, which is the series of my profile picture, not on Blue Sky on this episode, you can do that as well on some
nice recommendation. Awesome.
Know.
Yeah, cool. So stay tuned anyway, because Silver Screen Regular remains deep in the swords and sorcery of 80s fantasy season. Next week, we're hitting rewind on a beloved adventure and paying an overdue tribute to its director. We really should have learned by this episode by now not to challenge a Sicilian. Yeah, there we go. Cinema Classics is back next month with a complete change of pace as the Simian squad reunites to take our ringside seats to the very first bout of giant ape and nuclear lizard. Join us for the rumble at Mount Fuji and beyond. And yeah, in the meantime, remember, you can do anything, but never go against the family. Good night.
You have been listening to the Silver Screen Cinema Classics Show, part of the Silver Screen Podcast. Cinema Classics is hosted, produced, researched, scripted, and edited by Michael Wilson. Additional material by DK. Follow us on social media, our YouTube channel, or wherever else you get your podcasts. Links to all of these places can be found via the link tree in each episode's description. This podcast is a Media Matters original production created by Mike Wilson. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share far and wide. Join us again next time, and hopefully this could be the beginning of a beautiful friendship. Here's looking at you, kid.